Hey, listen up. This is Coach Walker once again on another wonderful Saturday morning. Thank you all for joining us on NFL Alumni Tackle Obesity. We had an amazing time at the Super Bowl. If you haven't had an opportunity, go to tackleobesity.com. You'll see some of the highlights there. You'll see some of the amazing interviews that we did. I just want to send a very special thank you to all those who really helped us push the message during Super Bowl week. You know, my good friend Dr. Oz, our friends at the American Heart Association, Miss Nancy Brown, the CEO. Thank you so much for taking the time to come over and speak to me. That was just so profound, and for you and for Mr. Jeff Miller, who's the Vice President of Communications and Media for the National Football League. Our partners with NFL Flag, our good friends at Noah Nordis, everyone that's it felt like we were a team actually preparing for the Super Bowl. And I got to just tell you, it's so incredible to be part of an amazing team that's battling against obesity. Our friends at the NFL Alumni Health, Kyle Richardson and the group over there, and Healthcore is an amazing thing that they got started to help so many people. It's just so many key players. It just felt like there were just MVPs all over the place. And I just got to say a very special thank you to all those individuals and all of you for tuning in and providing your support, asking questions, and just being a part of this team. So today, Coach Walker wants to talk a little bit about pictures. And you're like, well, Coach, what do you mean pictures? What are you talking about? Well, when I say pictures, I'm talking about mindset. Mindset is critical to success in any type of endeavor that you're involved in, whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to be successful on your job, whether you're trying to prepare to play against a team like the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Pictures are important. And when I say pictures, where I'm going with this is you have to decide whether or not you're going to take the picture or you're going to make the picture. Here's the difference. When you're taking a picture, you're simply placing yourself around the environment that already exists. You have very little to do with what's in the picture. So this graphic behind me, I have very little to do with these logos. I didn't create the NFL alumni logo. I didn't create the Tackle Obesity logo. I didn't create the logo for the stations. I'm just simply here taking a picture in front of it, right? When you make the picture, you influence what's in it. So when you take that mindset and you apply it towards your wellness goals, then you're able to make a picture. And what I mean by that is this. Many of us will say, I want to lose weight. And we quote unquote take a picture. I want to lose 30 pounds by my birthday. So we stand in front of our birthday as the backdrop. And we say, hey, I'm going to lose 30 pounds by my birthday. That's fine. That's a really nice picture. If you make the picture, you say specifically, I'm going to start drinking water. I'm going to stop eating fried foods. I'm going to park my car at the end of the parking lot and walk. I'm going to take the stairs instead of the elevator. I'm going to make sure I'm getting 7 or 8 hours of sleep every night. I'm going to make sure that when I'm having a stressful day that I don't binge eat. I'm going to make sure that I don't drink sugary drinks and I'm drinking adequate water. That's making a picture. So when you adopt that mindset of making a picture instead of taking a picture, that's when you're able to see noticeable and sustainable success. So the message for today is, are you going to make the picture or take the picture? That's my lecture from Coach Walker today. So I want to move forward and talk about our incredible guest today. I've had the pleasure of chatting with these incredible gentlemen, and they are soldiers in this battle against obesity. And when I say soldiers, I mean they're literally on the front lines. They help to influence people to manage their weight, to keep their weight off. They lead by example. They look phenomenal. They provide so many tips and traits, but they're also on the very, very difficult side of the equation as well. Daniel works in urgent care, and Daniel works in emergency care, and Daud works in urgent care. And what they see is the unfortunate end of the obesity cycle. They see the heart attacks, the strokes, the diabetes, the high blood pressure, the people that, sometimes may lose a limb due to diabetes, things like that. And these are really, really cruel side effects of obesity. And the tricky thing is, obesity is never diagnosed as what it is. It's a disease, but you never hear a diagnosis of obesity. You never hear someone, or you never see someone's death certificate signed as obesity being the cause of death. It's the other things that obesity hides behind. And that's where we have to really bring it out and expose it. Because if you take the foundation away, the building will crumble. And the building that these diseases rest upon is obesity. It's the high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, even cancer. There are hundreds of comorbidities of obesity that uses it as the bedrock. And these are the things that impact our lives. So I want you guys to welcome our guests, Daniel and Daud. They are the Murse gang, M-U-R-S-E, Murse gang. I want to bring them up now. Daniel and Daud, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Tackle Obesity.
We appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for having us.
This is the very last time that I will ever refer to either of you as a guest, because moving forward, you guys are teammates. So welcome our new teammates, Daniel and Daud. When you have an opportunity, folks, go to the Tackle Obesity website. You will see them on there. You're able to follow them and their journey. You're able to connect with them. I highly recommend that you reach out to Daniel and Daud. They are doing some incredible things. So tell us a bit, gentlemen, about your journey with obesity and how, you've seen it impact people, and, just tell us your overall perspective on it.
Oh, yeah. So as you mentioned, we're nurses. So we do kind of see that the end of the road where obesity lands patients. And obviously it's not the only disease that somebody can suffer through, but it definitely complicates and conjugates things. Even during nursing school, I thought it was really interesting that of all the risk factors of many diseases, whether it's respiratory, asthma, or some of the cardiovascular, the heart ones you mentioned, heart disease, hypertension, obesity seems to rear its head 9 times out of 10. Mm-hmm. Even over things like cigarette smoke, alcohol, obesity seems to be one of the greatest risk factors and complicators among some of these non-communicable diseases. And for it to not be labeled as a disease, or for people to have stigma against calling it what it is, it's not a shame or a judgment upon aesthetics. Look how you look and feel good in your skin. We're talking about medically. Obesity is a disease, any way you look at it. So we get to see, or unfortunately, we do see where it leads to in a terminal way or in a drastic way when our patients are suffering from that, amongst other illnesses.
Right. And like Daniel works in emergency, so he sees a lot of the, end of the road for these types of patients. Me being in urgent care, I also see some of them that are in the end of the road, but I also see a lot of them that are in the middle of the road that we try to, give tips and try to guide them to where they can lose some of that weight and prevent these comorbidities to affect them in the future. So a lot of people don't even have the correct information or the knowledge. It's not that they don't want to do it. I've come to realize a lot of patients just don't know what they're even doing on a daily basis, what they're eating, the amount of little exercise they even get. So bringing these things to light, everyone wants to be the best version of themselves. So I think we can help a lot of people.
You gentlemen do so much in the office and in the ER, and you're dealing with people, at various phases. Unfortunately, they're all there because they have a problem. But one of the things that really stood out to me was that you guys take it to the streets, and you go around and you ask people questions and you provide information to just regular old Joes on the street. So you're sort of like a guerrilla marketing tactic where you're actually on the streets talking to random people, giving information, asking questions, creating awareness. Where does that come from? Tell me about, how do you guys get that started?
So Murse gang, that's what we are. So obviously Murse is male nurse combined. It's little nickname that male nurses use. So one of our programs is called Street Medicine. So it's just street style questions where we go to random civilians, non-healthcare workers on the streets, and we're just asking them random healthcare facts, see how they answer it. A lot of times it ends up being funny to hear these answers, but we do provide that education. Like, no, this is what this actually is, or no, this is the stats, this is the data. So it's nice to be able to do that personally, one-on-one, but then also when we're projecting it on social media, a lot of other people can learn from it as well. So it's a blessing through a little bit of a fun thing. So
yeah, and being able to talk to these people in the streets, it really showed me a lot of things that, like I said before, that they don't know, right? So being able to just talk to them, and I feel like now we can kind of cater towards specific topics. Before it would kind of be just general questions, right? But now I feel like we can speak to them specifically about obesity or specifically about, cardiovascular diseases, to try to help these people understand not just what the disease is, but also ways to prevent it. So, and these little interactions become pretty big when we realize how much it really affects these people when we talk to them. So yeah, it's been really fun to do that, and we look forward to making more of those videos for sure.
Outstanding. And Daniel, you are a proud veteran. You served in the Air Force, am I correct?
yes, sir.
And so, you've been to boot camp, you've been in the trenches, you work, obviously, as a member of the service. And I understand, especially from speaking to, veterans in the past, that there is a serious obesity issue within the ranks of the military. So can you talk to us about what's been your experience and what type of things have you seen, amongst our veteran population?
Yeah, so being in the Air Force, I was actually in multiple units, and every time I ended up being in a unit, whether I was transferred state to state or deployed overseas, I'd end up being a physical training leader. So you have one or two, depending on the size of your unit, that kind of helps people with their physical training assessment. So being prepared and being fit to fight is what we call it. So I was one of those leaders. It was a great opportunity for me to learn more. We had classes on that and exercise physiology, things like that. And also working with different populaces, different genders, different age groups as well, showed me more about the general aspect of health when it comes to being a fit force. Unfortunately, like you're saying, we do have our own failures right now when it comes to maintaining our fitness, which is, it's never good for anybody, right? We talked about some of those patients down the road, but it's especially detrimental to our fighting force, right? We're supposed to be sharp, we're supposed to be swords. What good is a sword that's gone dull? It's useless, right? So we're actually, when you're not making those fitness standards, when you're actually not making you're not making a successful regiment, you actually are causing a detriment to the nation because you're not able to be deployed. And when you're not deployed, you're causing the DoD as a whole about $105 billion in exercise physiology. So both people who are currently active duty, guard, reserve, and those who are retired, who the DoD is still taking care of through the VA and things like that, it's $105 billion that it's costing.
It's 105 billion with a B.
105 with a billion.
Oh my God.
With a B, yeah, B for billion, yeah. It's a pretty large number. And it even starts before you get drafted, before you sign that contract. Of the people who are in the age bracket to sign up to be drafted for the military, 71%, so vast majority, are ineligible because of their fitness standards or obesity.
Wow.
And then when you do make it in, maintaining it is another beast in itself, because 1 out of 5 military service members are no longer fit to fight, suffering things like obesity. So 20% of our fighting force is not able to do things like deploy, and maybe might have their job at risk. So it's quite
so
sad.
we're literally losing soldiers to obesity. We're losing service members to obesity.
Yeah, it's a disease from within inside, right? So it's pretty astonishing when you think about that.
That's scary. And we spoke with a general actually at the Super Bowl last year in Phoenix, and you're verifying what he said. He said obesity is a national it's a military what's the term that he used? It's a national security issue. It's the issue of national security, because he said at some point we're not going to have enough soldiers to actively staff our military as we should, based upon what the needs are. And the big contributor to that is obesity. That's a scary thought. Very, very scary thought.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. Daud, you work in urgent care.
Yes.
And so you see a vast majority of people from different, ages and different spectrums, everything ranging from, I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine from basically from a newborn to, someone 80, 90, 100 years old or whatever, right?
Right.
Oh, what is it like when you were to say like your average day, and let's say you have 10 people. Of those 10 people, how many of those cases would you say has some type of connection to obesity, and what's it like dealing with that all the time?
Out of those 10 people, let's say it is an age range, right? So we'll have younger in the first 5 and then older in the second 5. I would say about 50%. But if we're talking only adults, I would say about 70 to 7 out of 10 patients usually have something related to weight being an issue. A lot of what we do is kind of just helping them relieve some of the symptoms they're already having from these diseases that they have, right? And it's tough. It's a tough fight, because once you're in it deep, once you're you're not where you want to be with your weight and you have a few diseases, it's harder to come back, right? You can't just a lot of patients can't just go out and just go run 2 miles. Their heart can't take it, or their lungs can't take it, right? So it's a constant battle to try to have these patients to get better, because a lot of them do often lose hope as well. Not in a way where they're just not doing anything with their life and they're depressed, but more so they just feel like they can't get back to where they used to be because of all these issues that they have, all these pills that they're taking, right? They just don't have any example, honestly. There's no real example that they can look at that shows them like somebody was in their position and they came out of it. There isn't enough examples that way. So hopefully we can make more examples to teach these. It's usually the middle age to older age. There are a few that are in their 20s, but not as much. And obviously the younger kids are the younger kids, and they come in for their own reasons. But I would say about 70% of, if it's only adult patients, that obesity is related some way or another, whether it's before or after, whether it's their first disease or if it's their second, third disease, it always somehow relates. And having this, like I said, people lose hope. So having these diseases doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't. And the body is a magical machine, right? So if you train it, and if you fuel it correctly and you treat it right, and this is not just physically, spiritually, mentally, the body can heal itself, right? So a lot of people don't understand that, and so the body is a magical thing.
Unbelievable. You mentioned, and I do want to go there, because you did mention these patients, and this question is for both of you, because I know that you both have experience with this. You mentioned that people try to find solutions, and one of the unfortunate things that we know, and I'm just gonna shoot straight on it. There are a lot of opportunist companies out there that take advantage of people who are suffering from obesity. It's big business. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry with pharmaceuticals, fad diets, fad foods, like all of these different things. You walk down the aisle in grocery stores, you see, oh, this is I won't use the name, but there's cereals that say this is good for your heart. And we had our chief medical advisor, Dr. Holly Lockton, on it, and she basically laughed at it. And she said, "You never take nutrition advice from a bumblebee, because on the box, literally, it has on there, this is part of a heart healthy diet." and it can heal. It has so much protein and blah blah blah. And she said like the protein content that they have would be like the equivalent of having like a medicine dropper in a pool. Yeah, there's protein in the water, but how much? So there's all of these different tricks, fads, trends, whatever you want to call it. Might even say to some degree, minor fraud out there about all these different ways that you can manage your weight. So what are some things that you've seen that are just we're just gonna just do fact or fiction? Like what are some things that you see out there that just people should just avoid?
Yeah, I think in general, the FDA is obviously our regulatory agency over food and drugs. In general, for something to be cleared through the FDA, obviously that means they've hit a certain standard of, I guess, rigorous inspection. The issue is if something's deemed to be or proven that it doesn't actually do what it says it does, or it's even been toxic, there's been fatalities because of this mislabeling. All they have to do is change one ingredient and they can put it back on the market. Just one ingredient, right? So playing with all these fads and hoping to skate around the work, because at the end of the day, when I help people work out, they want to know tips and tricks. What should I do? What's the best thing to eat? And they're getting into the weeds of it. But in most cases, it's a general issue. If I took a 12-year-old and I was like, hey, you're getting ready for your first year as a freshman. You want to get ready for sports. What do you think your plate should look like? That 12-year-old could probably know I should avoid donuts. I should have some green on there. I should have some lean meats. So it is a lack of education, but sometimes we get so lost in the intricacies because we want to maybe shortcut or have a fast track. But in general, we know we shouldn't be eating that donut every day. In general, we know I should have a little bit more green on my plate. And if you stick to some of these things, you're going to be able to bypass some of these risky or even useless and stop wasting your money on some of these things that are just flat out not effective or lies.
Right. And to touch on what Daniel was saying, I feel we need to learn how to read labels a lot better.
Yes.
A lot of people don't even look at the label, let alone the calories, let alone the protein, let alone the carbs, let alone the fats, especially the ingredients, right? Something can say 30 grams of protein, 2 grams of carbs, and, just looking at it, majority of people would think that's healthy, and I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to be healthy with that. In moderation, that's fine to reach your nutrition goals. But if you look at the ingredients on, 99% of these, even these healthy foods at the grocery stores, there's like 20, 30 ingredients in there, so we have to learn how to read labels a lot better. And it breaks down to a lot more than just reading a label, right? So you're going to know how to count your calories. You're going to have to learn how to know how many carbs, how many protein, how many fats you need. It sounds complicated, but it's really not that complicated. A quick glance and you'll have an idea, right? So try to avoid these, processed foods as much as possible at these grocery stores, at these gas stations. If you have no choice, you have no choice. But the statement of you are what you eat can't be further from it can't be more true. You really are what you eat, and your body breaks it down and it goes into your cells, So learning labels will be very important. And I feel junk food and these types of foods that I'm talking about is so accessible. There's a McDonald's in every corner, right? If we go back to our countries, our homelands, there's no McDonald's, there's no KFC, there's no Popeyes, there's no, you have to go home and you have to eat home cooked meals, and you have to eat fresh food, fresh milk, fresh fruits. So I feel America really does have an issue because of how easy it is to get these junk foods.
And where's your home country, by the way? Just so
I'm from Uzbekistan,
and I'm first generation from Nigeria.
And what's the obesity rates there as compared to the U.S.?
I don't have exact numbers.
We don't have numbers.
It doesn't, because it's not studied. It doesn't really.
I know anecdotally, but
they'll measure something that doesn't happen that often. Of course, it's possible, especially as the West has a major influence. It's we kind of lead trend. So things start to shift over to other parts of the world. And I think now it's even 1 in 4 adults globally are
Right.
underactive, meaning they're not hitting enough fitness standards. So it is kind of spreading to other regions, but it really isn't that big of a
It really
factor.
isn't an issue in your home countries, though,
Yeah,
because of the lifestyle, like Daud mentioned. You don't have McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, Popeyes on every corner. People
right,
cook over there, and they cook whole foods. They cook naturally grown
right.
or fresh meats and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And fitness there's two sides to the equation. It's what you're putting into yourself, like you're saying, but it's also what are you doing with that? So not only is there less choices for Burger King and things of that nature, but they're also a lot more active, walking places, things of that nature, a lot more manual labor. So it's kind of a better situation on both sides of the fitness spectrum. So.
Yeah. And I wanted to just give a shout out to Kendrick Johnson. Had a comment. Love that you guys are doing street medicine. Nice work. Thank you so much for that. He also said every human you help matters. Absolutely, every single human. We have one person do this. We've done our job. So thank you so much for that.
Awesome.
And forgive me if I mispronounce this. Rahav Tahir. Great point. Yeah, thank you for your feedback. Continue to give us feedback, support, ask questions. That's what these gentlemen are here for. We did briefly touched on the youth, and we know that there is a rising issue among the young population, 18 and under, with obesity. We touched on the fact that there's obviously an issue with recruiting for military. I know I have friends that are recruiters for college and NFL, and they said the pipeline for athletes is drying up as well. I have a recruiter who works for a NCAA, and he said that he's literally now, he used to just go to like the tier 1, maybe the tier 2 high schools, and that's it. And he'd have more than enough that he can handle as far as like recruits. But now it's to the point where he's going beyond that. He's going to the lower tier schools. He's going to these schools that you never heard of before. And beyond that, he's now crossing over into other sports. So he's looking for basketball, baseball players, and even like lacrosse players to try to fill the pipeline for recruits, because there just aren't enough kids in these programs playing football. And I think that's been an issue. And he's seen basketball, baseball recruits, at football games as well. So the youth obesity crisis is growing at an unprecedented rate. These kids are eating the foods that we just mentioned. Unfortunately, we got busy parents. Not that that's an excuse, but it is what it is. This is our lifestyle. We have busy parents. We don't cook anymore. We have fast food franchises in schools. When you go visit schools, you will see McDonald's, Taco Bell, Subway at the school, in the cafeteria. They have a little mini franchise storefronts, Pizza Hut, right there in the school. They have vending machines. They got access to soda, cookies, chips, you name it, 24/7, 365. In addition to that, the lack of activity. Some schools, PE is no longer a requirement. These kids are doing everything online now through computers. The physical requirements just aren't there anymore, in addition to the poor nutrition. So that being said, tell us your perspective on the youth obesity crisis that we have right now.
Yeah, so I actually work in cardiac ICU, cardiac surgery ICU. So that specific populace are patients who are receiving intervention for their hearts. And a lot of it does come from obesity, amongst other things, like we said, smoking, alcohol. And a lot of times, some of them kind of have an air of, I'm not sure how I got here, which kind of makes sense because it wasn't just one major action. It was over the course of your life, and that began as a child, right? So when you began as a child, you didn't have the proper education, you didn't have the proper lifestyle model to you, and that just grew. And when you started to make your own choices, you repeated that. And unfortunately, you're probably repeating that in your own household with your own children. So it's kind of that vicious cycle. So like Daud has been saying, it's the education that has to be done. It has to be prioritized. We talked about 1 in 4 adults globally being underfit, 1 in 4 globally not getting enough exercise. Almost 80% for children, 80% for adolescents. So basically, every child you pass on the street is not working out enough, is not getting enough moderate activity. So it should be 60 minutes a day of moderate activity, meaning your heart rate is getting above 100, right? Moderate activity, walking, biking, like you're saying, it's being replaced with some of these virtual means, video games, and hey, love technology, but it doesn't replace what we need to do for our bodies, right? And then the muscular building, the resistance that needs to be done 3 days a week, that's not being hit as well. And hearing that PE's been taken out of school systems, I mean, where are they going to learn it from? It's not being modeled in the home. They're not getting it at school. Where are we magically going to just become fit if we don't start as kids?
Right. And to add on to Daniel, it's a pattern, right? So you're saying, oh, well, we know that the kids' obesity is on the rise, but we also know that the adults' obesity is on the rise as well, right? So these kids are going to do what these parents teach them, not even teach them, because it's one thing to tell, even, for example, my own, family, my own little brother, vegetables is healthy, don't eat chips. But it's more so the example you set, right? So you can tell them don't eat chips, but if you're sitting eating chips, he's gonna eat chips, right? That's number one. So it's a pattern between the adults, which are the parents, that leads into the children, which which is not good. But I also want to touch on, technology is keeping these kids in the home. If we can speak on just us three here, as kids, we were outside. I already know, they're not getting the exercise they need. A lot of kids don't even involve themselves in sports anymore, right? So they want to just come home and get on their game. And I'm sure if we were kids, we would, fall into that as well. They're just children. So more than ever, we need to set more boundaries and kind of structure their life a little bit, right? So they can have a great future, a healthy future. But that starts with the parents, as well as limiting electronics as well. I think those are very key.
So you gentlemen both touched on technology, and I agree with you. I think technology is great. We've made so many advancements in the past 20, 30 years. How can we use technology to help us in this battle? What are some things that you think we can use to make us smarter about the way that we approach our wellness through technology?
So I just want to say, we do have ways that we use technology, right? So we can scan our body. That's one example. Tells us the fats, the muscles, where it's at, everything about our body, bone density. If there's any parts of the body that's weak, it'll tell us. So that, as well as smart scales. We also have machines that we can use to exercise that have electronics in there that are really good. There are ways that we do use electronics to help us. More ways would be maybe somehow incorporating, teaching these kids how important it is to exercise and eat well, relating to the games that they do play. So there are ways that we do get help from electronics, but there are a lot of ways that we can improve. So I would say, obviously, it would have to start with educating these children, but also, like I said, educating these parents as well, so they know what's right and wrong, and they can do a better job.
Yeah, I think touching on that, technology is just that. It's just a tool that we have, not inherently bad, not inherently good, but it can help us be more productive when it comes to fitness. It's like if you have a hammer, really great for building, but you don't pick it up and get it swinging, you're not going to build anything, right? So we have all this technology. You can Google it, you'll find 20 things. But if you're not in the mindset that I'm going to go and achieve the best fitness that I can for myself, well, all that technology will be for naught, right? So he's talking about scans and BMI, body mass indexes. the DEXA scan is known to be the gold standard. So sometimes BMI can be faulty. You can have a different makeup, or it cannot truly tell you what your exact fat percentage is when it comes to height versus weight. But the DEXA scan is a gold standard. It can tell you the density of your bones originally is what it's for, but can also see your fat content. And even the air pods or the water pods where you're being weighed and they're checking the buoyancy, because the fat percentage or fat content is lighter than bones, lighter than muscle. So you can see exactly, all right, well, I feel bigger, I look bigger, but is it because I'm also working out? Am I stronger now? And you get a more accurate control on your health. And it boils down to, everything like that I was saying is that you want to be in the know. Like I said, most of the patients that I see that are post-intervention for cardiac surgery, they have the air of, I don't even really know how I got here. And then you start asking them, okay, what does your lifestyles look like? And what are some things you're doing? What does a day look like for you? What do you intake? It's very clear to see. But because it's something that you've done habitually over time, you kind of forget that. So you have to be more cognizant of what you're doing with technology, more cognizant of what you're putting in your cupboards, what you're putting on your plate. You have to be more aware because it all accumulates.
And to add one more thing, there is one issue with DEXA scans, which is a great tool to learn about your body, by the way, but it's just not easily accessible.
Yeah.
Right. It's not cheap. It's not like any human or any civilian here can just go get one when they wake up. They just decide to get one. So in that way, I know that we can, if we really want to help these people, we can find a way to improve the technology to where it is accessible for these people to use it, right? As well as there are other electronics that do help us a lot, right? I would say Apple Watches, for example. They're very, very, very helpful, even as simple as just being able to monitor your heart rate. And it's very accurate, by the way. Just being able to monitor your heart rate is very important during regular exercise, during resting, see where your resting heart rate's at, seeing where your heart rate is when you're going through your sleep cycles, right? These are very important to your health. There are new technology added to these Apple Watches as well to be able to read your EKG, blood oxygen level, labs. So, these are very important, and we are making advances. So I'm very happy about that.
Absolutely. And, full disclosure, in my personal journey, I've used quite a bit. Technology has been a big help. And you touched on something that I think is critical for people to understand. BMI was touted for so long as like the metric, like the report card for your wellness. But here's the example that I go back to when I truly got an understanding of how BMI works. If you base BMI based on BMI alone, you guys familiar with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right? You know who that is. Everyone knows who that is.
Oh, yeah.
According to BMI alone, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is morbidly obese. Yeah. Now, I think we kind of agree that that's definitely not the case. Like, he's not someone that we would consider, to have an issue with obesity. But again, that's just, of course, that's an extreme example. But I love the point that you made is that we have to understand the true picture, the dashboard, your weight, your percent body fat, your hydration, as you mentioned, Daud, your oxygen levels, all these different things. And there are ways that you can get this information through technology, through watches. You don't have to have Apple, by the way. I have an Android. I have an Android watch.
Smart watches.
I'm not going to mention the name, but they're not paying us. But so when you pay us, we'll mention your name. There's that. There's smart scales. There are devices. I log my meals on my phone just by taking a picture, and it is such a big tool because when I have off weeks, which you will have off weeks, it's just like football. If you're a running back, you're not going to score a touchdown every time you carry the ball. You're not going to get a first down every time. You're going to get tackled for a loss. You're going to drop passes. You're going to throw interceptions as your quarterback. Same thing with wellness. You're going to have days where it just didn't get done. But what you can do is use the technology to go back to the film on the good days. Yes. Hey, that week that I lost 6 or 7 pounds, what was I doing? What was I eating? I go back to that and I look at what I ate. I can even see the picture. Oh, I remember that now. and then I go back to that and put myself back on track. So I love the point that you guys made about how we can use technology to help us as a tool. And like I love your analogy, Daniel. It's like you got to pick that hammer up. If you don't pick that hammer up, it's pointless to go to the Apple store or Android store and buy a watch if you're not going to use it. So you have to use the technology to work for you. So love that point. And this is a question that does come up because one of the things, and I will testify as a former water hater. How do you incorporate proper hydration into your nutrition plan? What are some tips that you have for that?
I'll be honest, I'm also a water hater as well. So I'm not going to show labels, but I have to, and I do my research, but I use my hydrating water, which is also flavored, has my electrolytes in it. So when I'm drinking that, I can get my water intake amount that I need easily. So for me, water is just boring, but you have to do it. You know what I mean? Fitness doesn't always feel good. You don't always feel like going to the gym. You don't always feel like eating the green foods versus a burger. But we're talking about ways that we can achieve it. So for me, it's flavoring my water. But of course, be careful because additives and things like that. But I did my research, and I'm not gonna say the brand, but they're pretty well trusted. 0 calories, 0 sugar, all that. So I chug those. And we work 12-hour shifts for nurses as well. So sometimes if you're not going to be able to take a break and run around, carry a bigger jug. I used to carry a gallon jug of water with me. So you just got to kind of set yourself up for success. You got to set up a reminder in your phone, do that. There's some jugs that have hourly increments. And even when we're in nursing school, if I fall behind and I'm like, it's 12 o'clock and I haven't drank any, well, I got to sit there and chug. Don't get water poisoning. Don't get water poisoning. But I got to sit there and chug and meet that increment. So there's a number of ways to kind of track your water intake and stay on par with that.
So speaking about hydration, I want to touch on two things, right? There's one thing to drink water and be hydrated, and there's another to have enough electrolytes for your body muscles to absorb and actually benefit from the water you're drinking. It can be as simple as just seeing the color of your pee, right? That can be a great indication on if you are really dehydrated, if your body is, moderate, or you're overdoing it a little bit, right? So you don't want it to come out pure, clear,
all the time.
Yeah, all the time, right? That could mean you are a little overhydrating. It could also mean you are flushing out some nutrients in your body, right? So you want it kind of light yellow tinted. That's the best way I would describe it. But also make sure you are getting your electrolytes, right? So after you have physical activity, that's very important. That's why people drink Gatorade, right? It's just electrolytes with water and some salt, sugar. So it's very important to get your electrolytes, like I said, to help your muscles absorb this water and these nutrients, right? So it's a balance between both. Going through your day to day, it's very important to drink water and flush your body out, so your body can, stay clean. The best way I can describe it, and as well as get your hydration by the electrolytes. Those two are very important.
Great. Well, it's always a challenge, but yeah, I appreciate all the insight that you gave, and the electrolyte things is such a critical thing. I'm glad you reminded me because I to your point, Daud, I get my water intake, but it's also critical to make sure that you have the correct electrolyte balance so that you're not robbing yourself of nutrients in the process, because it kind of defeats the purpose if you just gonna hydrate yourself to the point where you flush out the nutrients.
Right.
I do want to switch gears here a bit, and this is specifically to the fellas because I'm just gonna shoot straight. We're hard headed. We don't listen. There's a very good reason why the average lifespan of a male is much shorter than females, and it's because we have this stigma amongst us that it's not manly to ask for help or support or we don't typically go to the doctor unless something happens. Preventative care, maintenance, maintaining weight specifically is one, and then also sort of thinking about the community or the brotherhood of men. We don't talk to each other, and we don't encourage each other. We don't point out to each other when when we see something in our friends or our brothers or whatever. So talk to us about the stigma of wellness amongst men, and how do we break that cycle?
Yeah, it's important to know that with treatment, it comes in three stages. There's primary, there's secondary, and there's tertiary or third. So primary treatment for anything is education. It's education. So it's really important that we're getting the education, that we're talking with our doctors, that we're relaying any health concerns. And if we're having questions about how we can be healthy and what we can do, talk to an expert about it, right? I know there's certain stigmas for certain reasons. Maybe there's distrust in the medical world, or maybe you're scared of what you might find. Maybe you had a loved one, a relative genetically related that also had an issue and you're scared to find out. But on the other end of that is tertiary. So tertiary means you're in the recovery phase, or you're learning to deal with what you now have. That's something that can be an impediment on your life. So unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of people coming in at the tertiary stage because maybe they don't have access to that healthcare as well. But no matter what the disease is, it's that much more to have a good prognosis from, or to even heal and recover from, if we're catching in a tertiary stage or a late stage.
Mm-hmm.
So we're if we can, we're gonna have to kind of overcome some of these things that are keeping us out of getting the education, keeping us out of having these discussions. Even if you don't want to go into a hospital, there's people who are willing to, just sit down with you virtually and talk to you as well. So we just kind of have to do that, be educated and be in the know and plan out. Failure to plan is planning to fail. So we have to be able to plan out our destiny and our health. So.
Right. And like you said, us men are kind of hard-headed, right? We kind of fight through the pain, and we try to come out the end of it, successful, right? So I think, like Daniel said, prevention and education is the most important. And like we were talking about before, a lot of these people don't know they're even having these signs and symptoms, right? So having these tests, these scans, these body scans, these weight scale scans, right? These Apple Watches, all these electronics that tell us about our body, but that also comes with having a goal, right? Having a goal to maintain your health, having a goal to try to make sure you age like fine wine per se, right? So to be able to do these things, like Daniel said, prevention and education is the most important. But we do get a lot of these patients that are in the third stage, to where now they already have the disease. Now we have to kind of treat it and try to get them to do everything they should have done before. That's what makes the process so hard, right? Each disease process has, a beginning or a before, and then you start having the disease process, then it gets to chronic, right? So trying to catch it early is very important, but trying to just spreading awareness, I feel, will help these men not ignore these signs, right? Belly pain or chest pain. We get people come in, for example, they're like, I've had chest pain for a few months now. Like,
Right.
why? Or I've been having right upper quadrant pain for, yeah, like I said, a few months. And you wonder, why. And a lot of them are men. Honestly, they are men. And you wonder why. And they're like, oh, it kind of went away, but then it came back, and then it kind of went away, and they kind of just forget about it once it goes away, But there's a reason why you're having these pains. There's a reason why there's habits in your day to day that's leading you to have these pains majority of the time. So awareness, is very important. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah, and some of these diseases that we're talking about that are obviously devastating on the health could be prevented, or could have been picked up and at least treated to where you have a better quality of life. So the greatest disease that's affecting us now as Americans is our cardiovascular diseases. And the greatest disease that leads into that, or most common, is hypertension. Hypertension's nickname is the silent killer, meaning it doesn't really present with signs and symptoms. So you need to be going to get screened to prevent against that. And especially as men, we have a greater propensity towards hypertension, which will lead to cardiovascular disease. It is a disease in itself. And African American and Hispanic men as well have a higher propensity to that. And beyond that, the number one risk factor towards hypertension and having some of these cardiovascular diseases are modifiable risk factors. So we do have the race, you can't modify that. You do have age, you can't modify that. And then your gender at birth, you can't modify that. But the actual greatest impact on us having cardiovascular diseases are the modifiable ones. The sedentary lifestyle, not getting active, what we're putting in the atherosclerosis and plaques in our vessels that we're putting in our own bodies, and then smoking and drinking as well. So
it breaks down to habit and lifestyle, and that's what we keep trying to preach, is that obesity is like the general manager of a football team. And it goes out and it recruits all-star players. Hey, I'm going to take heart disease and put it at linebacker. I'm going to take stroke and put it at safety. I'm going to take kidney failure and I'm going to put it at running back. I'm going to take stroke and make it my quarterback, etc. So it builds a team. And you think the team is the one that is winning when it's actually the general manager that put those components together. That's what obesity is.
wow.
That's the best analogy that I can think of is obesity is the general manager of the death team.
Wow.
And it's really sad. It's something that we really have to really drill down and focus on. And speaking of, football analogies, you kind of touched on this, but I wanted to kind of drill down on it a little bit more. Is the accountability aspect. And when we speak of accountability, specifically coaching, because no one has achieved any level of success without the support of someone else at some point. So can you talk to us about how critical it is to have coaching as a part of your wellness plan?
Right. So obviously coaching, having somebody that knows what they're talking about, number one. Right. It's one thing to know what you're talking about. It's another to create a plan, right? And then it's another to have somebody keep you accountable, like you said, to be able to follow through with these plans, right? And consistency is most important. So a coach can kind of gap that barrier between a patient or just, like I said, a normal civilian. It can gap a lot of bridges, right? For them to plan, for them to have the knowledge, for them to perform the exercise. They'll have somebody there coaching them through, motivating them, controlling their weights, telling them the exercises. So coaches, personal trainers, just people, groups of people that are like-minded is very, very important when you're trying to reach a goal, right? Mm-hmm. Especially you have to sit back and kind of understand yourself and know that, are you someone that can really stay on top of these habits and these workout plans and these diets by yourself with no help? Majority of people aren't like that, and that's okay, right? So having these like-minded people can keep you accountable because you don't want to let people fail, right? So I would say coaching can help majority of the civilians that are just lacking the knowledge.
Yeah, and I think that comes into play with us men being more stubborn and hard-headed. Listen, if you're trying to accomplish anything, even outside of fitness, it is a great idea to have a mentor in your life. I have multiple mentors. So that's not an admittance of weakness. That doesn't mean that you are incapable. It means that you care about what you're doing and you want to do it properly. I've even received coaching from him. He's trained me. I've had a trainer even a year ago, and I've been, doing fitness all my life. So, but you always want to sharpen your tool set. You always want to take it to the next level. And if there's any errors in your game, you want to adjust, call an audible, and be able to progress. Right. So there's absolutely, there shouldn't be stigma with having a coach or personal trainer. It doesn't mean you're so far out of shape or beyond repair that you're now calling in emergency. No, having that personal trainer is what prevents you from having a cardiac surgeon. or what could help prevent you from having a cardiac surgery. So if you think of it like that, it's like, why am I stopping myself from going? You know, you can have a virtual coach, you can have even someone who's not an official trainer, a certified trainer, but you know, you can tell someone who knows what they're doing in the gym, they know, you know what they're doing with their lifestyle, and you can, you know, see the results as well. And just say, hey man, can I work with you sometimes? Or what do you do? And like you said, it's doesn't always have to be a day-to-day battle. That's something that I learned from my personal trainer recently. That you should look more at like a week mindset, especially working shifts, right?
Mhm.
I can't go to the gym after working 14 hours. Some people can, some people can go before. I can't. So when I'm off a couple of days a week, those are my hard hitting days. So I break it down like, did I have a good week? Did I hit, you know, 4 to 5 days in the gym that week? And I've noticed much more success using that method. So
You kind of fed my next question because you know, we have busy lifestyles. So many people working so many hours, especially nowadays. You know, with the state of the economy and the way that we operate now. You know, the 9 to 5 mantra, you know, for all intents and purposes, doesn't really exist anymore. Everyone seems to have, you know, more than that going on. We got families, we have businesses, we have, you know, ambitions, all these different things going on. Tell us a bit about some strategies to how, you know, and you kind of touched on some of them, how you can manage a busy lifestyle and at the same time still stay on track for wellness.
Right. So there's plenty of people out there that have a busy life, kids, family, work, business, and still are in a great shape, right? And I feel it really comes down to consistency. Um, and let me explain this point. So people think you have to work out for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in one day, right? Oh, I'm so busy. I don't have no time. I can't go to the gym. Those are all okay. You don't need to do those things, right? It can be an hour one day, 20 minutes one day, 30 minutes another day, or it could just be 20 minutes throughout the week, right? So
Mhm.
consistently working out and adding those little increments is going to create a big result at the end, right?
Mhm.
So being able to time management is going to be very important when you have a family, when you have children, when you have, you know, people to look after. So you have to have your goals, and you have to figure out how in your life you can place that 20 minute to, you know, be able to do it consistently. So that's going to take a bird's eye view of your life and the priorities that you have. Anybody can add a 20-minute increment of even at home workout, right? And with technology, with the internet, there's plenty of workouts. You can easily just grasp 10, 15-minute, 20-minute workout. You can get online anywhere. It's out there. It's not hard for people to get this information at all. It's just a matter of, you know, motivating them and teaching them they need to do these things.
I think what helps, like we keep echoing the being aware, which is what we have to be, is having logs, multiple logs, food logs, sleep logs, even activity logs. That'll help you be accountable. But also, as people do these things, they start to realize, you know what? Maybe I did have a free hour that day. Maybe I wasn't as completely. Listen, I get it. You've got to take care of
Mhm.
business. You got to take care of the home life. Not saying quit your job to go be a gym rat. Not saying do that. But you'll find when you start documenting and looking at what you really do in a day and what time you spend here and there,
Mhm.
you can squeeze in at least 60 minutes of moderate activity, right? And sometimes it's not just the addition, sometimes it's the subtraction. Oh,
Mhm.
well, I noticed that I'm smoking. Okay, we should remove that. I noticed 3 days out of the week when I wrote it down, I'm drinking. Well, you should remove that, right? So it's not always the addition. You're not always trying to cram into your schedule. There's things, even if you didn't add, there's things that I bet most people can find in their schedule, their food logs, their sleep logs that they can remove, take out some of these distractions, some of these inhibitors. And it really takes kind of fine tooth combing over your lifestyle. You can do it with a coach or you can do it on your own. And some of these things will be glaringly obvious, but it should be done, right? It's something that needs to be done, especially if you're trying to make something out of your fitness life. And for me, it's kind of like that adage that girls jokingly use: if he wanted to, he would. You know, you can't be like, oh, that's my girlfriend, I don't have time to see her, or I don't, oh man, like I didn't get you flowers for Valentine's Day. No, if you wanted to do it, you would. If you were, you know, broke, cool, I get it, right? Go pick some flowers. If you wanted to, you would show up for her. So the same thing for your fitness, right? If you want to take care of your body, you absolutely should. So you're filling your daytime and your life with work and all these other things. I get it. They're staples. But what good is that if your body is not able to function? What good is having that valuable job if you're laid up in the hospital bed trying to recover for months on end? What good is that? So if you're not taking care of the first and foremost thing in your body, these things will suffer, not just being unable to do them, but unable to do them at a higher level. So it's not just the physical aspect of fitness that increases. It's things like memory, reduction of anxiety, you know, more dopamine's released. You're feeling better about yourself, confidence increase. These are things that help you be more successful, right, in other aspects of your life. So it should absolutely fit in. You should absolutely find that time to fit it in, no matter what your schedule looks like.
Absolutely. This is just such incredible information that you guys are providing here. And so for all of my people that, you know, are interested in learning more about the Murse Gang or how to follow you or how to connect with you, you know, share your details on how they can reach you.
Yeah. So primarily we do use IG. It's your IG handle? Instagram, by the way.
Instagram, yeah. So Daud_Avazov is mine.
How you spell that?
It's DAUD_AVAZOV.
And
that's mine. Yeah.
Mine is Fit Nurse Daniel. So fit_nurse_Daniel. And then collectively we have an IG, Murse Gang, Murse_gang. So you can DM us there and see some of our content, and we'd love to hear from you guys. So.
Okay. And if you can't find them there, you can find them on our page at tackleobesity.com. They are the newest members of Team Tackle Obesity. We're so glad to have the Murse Gang. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. We are definitely going to be hearing more from the Murse Gang. So continue to follow them and support them. They are critical members of our team, and we're just glad to have you.
Hey, we appreciate it. It was an absolute honor to come here and talk to you about something so important. So you'll definitely be seeing us again. So
absolutely.
Thank you for having us. Can't wait to do more work in the future and help spread this awareness.
This is just the beginning, folks. This is just the beginning. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. If you have not followed us on social media, we're on Instagram at Tackle Obesity. You can also look at the Tackle Obesity website. There's a wealth of information out there. Of course, the Murse Gang, there's some of our other coaches, Coach Wheeler. Congratulations to our good friend, Nick Hardwick, who's the former San Diego, I'm old school, so San Diego Charger. He's now the offensive line coach for the LA Chargers. And he's a critical member of our team. There's a two-time Super Bowl champ, Tyrone Poole, as well. Just look them up. They're on there. And we got more coming. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. And we're going to continue to fight this battle. We're going to continue to uplift and support each other. If you have questions, if you have comments, you have thoughts, send them to us. We will get information. We will get answers for you. We will point you in the right direction. That's what this is all about. We are going to work together as a team in this battle against obesity. Again, this is Coach Richard Walker. Thank you again to the Murse Gang. Thank you to all of you. Have a happy, healthy weekend, and we'll see you next time.